Hello, and welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, and today's guest is Kacia Fitzgerald. This woman is hilarious and fun and wise and just great. We got along like a house on fire, like a barn on fire. Whatever building that gets set on fire, that means it went well. That's what this episode is. And in this conversation, we talk about, so many useful things. We talk about falling in love with the process rather than what you produce. We talk about the real metric of success being the person that you are belonging. We talk about practical tips in terms of how to do that, how to navigate fear, imposter syndrome. When you're starting things, how do you balance out the decisions that you need to make when it feels like a yes, but kind of like a no? We talk about vision and goals in terms of navigating a life that you are proud of. And it's littered with giggles and personal stories and levity. It's a really good conversation, particularly if you are trying to start a new project, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are leaning towards a new decision, a big decision, if you're feeling lost or overwhelmed. This episode will help you. Kacia is great, and she's got a podcast herself, and I've included links to that stuff in the show notes as well as her Instagram. So without further ado, here is Kacia Fitzgerald.
That's the second button. All right. Kacia Fitzgerald. I feel like we're already jamming. You gave me a quick computer lesson because I don't know what I'm doing, despite having made it to 40 and having a PhD and doing 140 episodes.
We are all just figuring it out as we go, right? So I'm happy to be your tech support today.
The first thing I said to you was like, I have a question about my computer. I don't understand what's going on. Before I even said, hi, how are you? What's your name? It was like, hey, help me.
Hey, I got you. I like to help people. So, hey, we're good.
Yeah. Okay. So aside from being a podcast guest tech support person, to those listening who have never heard of Kacia Fitzgerald,
yes.
Like, what's your deal? Who are you?
Yeah. So I'm really like a life enthusiast. And I'm the person that if we're in an elevator together, we're definitely going to chat because I'm going to talk to you even if you feel uncomfortable with it. I'm a close talker too. I'm an entrepreneur and a podcaster, and I love to adventure, and I love helping people fall in love with the process rather than what the process could produce, and helping people figure out how to get more aligned. I've helped a ton of women launch podcasts. I have a company called She Goes, which is all about helping women that are just getting started in business. And then, I'm a podcast host myself with a podcast called Empower Her, which is all about helping women with like tactical tools and things to help them get to the next level in their life, their relationships, their business, their health, whatever it is. And I'm kind of like a little like Energizer Bunny hype squad. And I love talking about all the things. So we're going to have so much fun today, Jeremy.
You are an Energizer Bunny hype squad. You're like a living, breathing kind of pep talk, I feel. Is that fair?
Feels aligned. Yes.
Okay. So your podcast is called Empower Her. What does empowerment mean to you? Like, what does that look like? Why is it relevant?
So back before I started my podcast, I listened to a lot of podcasts because we know that we often become not just who we spend our time with, but the byproduct of the expectations of our peer group, right? So I had to get people around me that I felt like were a couple steps ahead of me. But also I felt like there was this missing link for me in personal development with having women that were willing to pull back the curtain and just share openly and honestly about where they're at now, rather than feeling like they were way far ahead of me and that they were talking back to a prior version of themselves. So when I started Empower Her, the intention was that it was going to be a come with me, let's figure this out together, rather than a look at me, I've got this all figured out type of podcast in the personal development space. So empowerment to me is really about like being transparent and being really honest about the fact that like some days you feel like you are going to be on your bathroom floor, like ugly crying with, your snot getting all up in your mouth. And some days you're going to feel like you are just able to dominate all the things. And sometimes those two feelings happen in the same hour. And that's just part of the human experience, right? So my intention with the podcast was to create this kind of conversation where it felt like we were girlfriends. I always say this on the podcast of like, we're girlfriends, like chatting over wine, coffee, like spicy margarita, just hanging out. And it's very conversational. So empowerment to me means like that you're willing to just be honest and go for the thing. And that looks different for everybody.
And then how did you get to this space? Like what were you doing before?
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people listening and can connect with this, where I did the thing that I thought that I should do. And when I got where I thought I should be, I was like, crap, this doesn't feel aligned for me. So I went to college. My background's actually in IT recruiting and engineering project management, which is very different than what I'm doing now. But on paper, it made sense, right? Like I went to school, got the job, started working my way up the corporate ladder. I actually didn't hate my job by any means. I had great managers, great career trajectory. My story is not one of like being in a back against the wall situation and needing to make a change, but it's actually more where like I just had this uncomfortable gut feeling that there was something more for me and I didn't know what the more was. And when I say more, I don't mean that being in the corporate world and working a corporate job is less than being an entrepreneur. For me, I meant more like aligned, where I felt like I got to be a more fully expressed version of myself. And I think I was just in the wrong game. Like I was in this corporate structure and I'm not a structured person. And I really crave freedom and creativity. And I was kind of put into this box and I was trying to fit into what I thought that I should be, watering down my personality a lot. So what I decided to do was I had no idea what I wanted to do in the entrepreneurial space, but I started a business on the side while I was working a full-time corporate job. And it was actually in network marketing first, which helped me figure out how to build community, learned a lot of like the skill sets to being an entrepreneur. I got to speak on a lot of stages, fell in love with public speaking, then started a podcast, then transitioned into building a company that I have now, which is helping female podcasters and women that are just getting started in business. So that's like the high level, but it was so many twists and turns and pivots and just like throwing stuff against the wall, being like, does this shit stick or not? And like, how do I feel about it? Along the way, but everything that I've done started on the side. So I'm actually not the person that's like jump and the net will appear. I'm like, try it on for size on the side. See if you actually like it. If you don't, great. That's still good feedback. If you do, then awesome. Keep going in that direction, knowing that when you do something for the first time, you're going to suck at the beginning. So you're going to have to work through that part anyway. But yeah, that's kind of how I've built my whole entrepreneurial journey.
I love that. And I completely relate to that in my own life. Like I was working for the Australian government. I was a scientist in a cubicle with the swipe card. And it's just slowly my soul eroded. And it wasn't that it was a bad job or it was not a good life. It just wasn't the one for me.
Yep.
And that reckoning took a lot of time and energy to come to terms with.
And did you feel like you were, because for me, I always felt like I was really confused by this because there was a lot of other people that this, like my last corporate job, I worked at Google and it was a great company. I absolutely loved working there. By a lot of other people's standards of what quote unquote success would look like, I did the things, I checked all the things. Mm-hmm. And I remember just it felt so uncomfortable inside where I'm like, why am I not like happy and fulfilled by this when other people are like, you did it, like you're doing the thing, you're making the money, you got the blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but I don't want it. Like, I don't want this life. This is not the right life for me. And it would be somebody else's version of great, but it wasn't mine. And I don't know. It's tough to be in that role. And I feel like people listening in might be able to connect with that feeling of like, when you know that you're doing something that no longer feels aligned, but you're scared to make a change because it's like giving up that good and going for great. And you're not forced to make a change because everything is pretty good. Right? Like for me, everything was pretty good. I didn't really have a lot of complaints, but I just wanted more. So that leap was like, that took a lot of oomph was required.
Yeah. And so I would love to hear more about that, specifically this idea of when you realize, how do I describe this? When you don't know what you want, but you know that you don't want what you have. Like, it's like, It's not this. I know that. I'm like reckoning with that day after day, but like I really have no clear idea of what I do want or how to get there.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think we say that as a placeholder, but if we were to say, I'm gonna like you are forced to make a decision on something that you're mildly curious about, we could probably figure out something, right? Whether it's going back to your childhood of like, what are the things that you like to do at a young age? What are things that you would do if like you could get paid to do anything? Like, what would you do? Even if it doesn't seem realistic, it's just, we put these limits on ourselves and we put ourselves in these boxes of like, well, I can't say that I'd want to do that because is that a quote unquote real job? Like the fact that I get paid to speak on a mic about random things is wild to me, right? Like I wouldn't have thought that was a quote unquote real job. But back when I was little, I used to interview all my like stuffed animals. I'd interview anyone that would listen to me. Like I love doing that. And it is a real job, turns out. And you can make an awesome living doing it. But the point is, I think for people that feel like they don't know what it is, I would ask you to think about what are you just mildly curious about, right? Because so often we think that the next move that we make has to be the forever thing, but I don't believe there is a forever thing, right? We're constantly evolving. People that listen into your podcast, like they're constantly evolving. You understand that it's a compliment when you aren't like how you were last year because you're working really hard on yourself. And I think it's, if we could just entertain this idea of like, let me just try this on, like kind of like tapas, right? Like, let me just try this. And if I like it, then maybe I'll order the whole entree. And if I don't, then I'll just try something else. And like this curiosity and more like this freedom rather than this like strict, like this has to be the next best step. And we want to know how it's all going to be laid out. But it's like, when you really think about it, like the last year, some of the things, or even the last couple years, you look back on your own life, it's like there are so many things that you wanted to work out that you're so glad now that they didn't because they aligned you to something else. But we have to be just willing to try. And a lot of us are too scared because we're worried what everybody thinks about us, or we're worried that we're going to fail. And it's like, yeah, but if you fail, then at least you know, rather than getting to the end of your TBD amount of days here and having regret or shoulda, woulda, couldas, or having lived somebody else's life because you lived by their standards rather than what fell the line for you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I'm like
I really do.
I find myself nodding along. I'm like, this is good shit. I like this. I've never heard life described as tapas before. I might steal that one for something. That's great. But then how did you navigate? Because it's easy to be on the other side, right?
For
But we're
sure.
like, oh, we have jobs and we're making money and
Yep.
you just have to trust the immediate next step and everything will work out for you. Just allow and surrender and flow and namaste.
Yep.
But like, it's also really difficult, right?
It's super difficult. And I think it's because so often, like, so we have, especially for like the ambitious go-getter, big dreamers that are listening to this podcast, where maybe you actually do have a vision of something that you want to do. It's really hard because you have a massive space between where you are now and where you want to go. And what I'm really conscious of is trying not to label that space with something that doesn't actually serve me, right? Because it's so easy to say like, how the hell am I going to get there? That's so overwhelming. And I'm not the person yet. Like, I'm not qualified for that vision. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Like, you're not qualified. You have to qualify yourself in the process. Like, the big vision and the big dreams that I have, I actually don't want them right now because I literally can't handle them yet. And that's a really interesting perspective, right? So I help a lot of women that are launching podcasts. And I was on a Zoom call with a group of them. And I was like, how many of you guys would love to have 1 million downloads on your podcast this month alone? And the chat just goes ham. They're like, yeah, Kay's like, wow, like, like, I want that. And I was like, interesting. As someone who does have a lot of listeners into my own podcast, I'm not ready for that yet. And the key word is yet, because I know how to be confident at this level with this amount of ears on me and this amount of eyes on me. And I know how to support my business on the back end to give people the type of experience interacting with me or interacting with my podcast at this level. But I'm not ready for that level yet, right? Do I want to get there? Absolutely. I want to make that type of impact. I love podcasting. I love being in the space. But I also want to give myself the opportunity to build the confidence to be able to handle it when I actually get there. So I feel like it is still fulfilling. And sometimes I think we get caught up in like this whole, like, I got to figure this out right now. And like, I got to get there faster. If I get there faster, I'll be more fulfilled. But sometimes you think about these people that had massive success and they couldn't handle it because they didn't have the habits or the environment around them. They didn't know how to like get themselves to take action. They didn't know the basic fundamentals. Then everything combusts when you get there. So it's kind of like this dance that's been really helpful for me is like trusting that it's going to work out, but also saying like, this season still serves me. Like this stage actually does matter where I'm trying to figure it out because I know and believe that there's going to be a future version of me that's going to look back and be like, that's the shit that made you feel like you could handle this. Right. But if you didn't do that part, you wouldn't be able to connect with the people that you want to serve because you wouldn't get it. Right. If it just happened overnight, if I was like, Jeremy, yeah, I just like started this business and I made millions of dollars and I wrote this book and it was like a bestseller and blah, blah, all this stuff. You'd be like, I'm so bored. You have no story. Like, I'm not inspired by that. Like it got handed to you or just poof, like a magic genie gave it to you. So I think sometimes we want that, but we don't actually. We think we do because it sounds good, but it wouldn't feel as good. And that's what we're really craving, right? Getting to the goal, it's the feeling that we think that we'll get when we get there, not the actual accomplishment itself, right?
Yeah, I think what you're speaking to is the idea of earning it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like putting in the reps, putting in the time, sacrificing, and like making it happen. There's something particularly delicious about the investment in the journey.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I love the word delicious because that's literally what it is. Like, you think about it even just with a workout. You're not going to go up to someone and be like, oh, I had the easiest workout this morning. I just crushed it. I feel so great. It was so easy. Versus like, if you're like struggling to walk and you're like, I like crushed it this morning. You're so proud of it because like that easy does rob you of proud often. And easy doesn't necessarily mean that it has to feel really hard and resistant. Because right now for me, what's not easy and what's actually difficult was me slowing down for a second and saying, what do I actually really want at this season in my career and with my business? Who do I actually want to serve? What type of programs, products do I want to create? The slowdown before the speed up. That part's challenging for me right now. Versus maybe for some people, what would be challenging is taking that first step, calling your shot, going for that thing, making that change, even if people don't understand it. So that easy is up to interpretation. But if you just get easy, you miss out and rob yourself of proud, truly, in anything.
I like that. Yeah. It reminds me, I've got a client right now, and one thing I'm having her do is not make her bed this week. Because it's like, that's very, we talked about a bunch of things and then that came up and her demeanor changed and she felt this complete shift in her body. And like, that feels really hard. I'm like, okay, cool. Guess what? For this week, like you're not making your bed just to have the experience, to know what it's like, to confront it, to dance with that. Right.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of other people would be like, I need some structure. It'd be hard for me to stick to this simple habit of like making my bed. It's so powerful when you have that self-awareness of knowing like what is actually harder for you. Like sometimes for me, it's a slow down workout. Like I like lifting weights and doing HIIT and that type of stuff. So maybe it's like doing yoga is actually harder, you know?
Yeah. I feel like when I first started in business, I was very much of the like Gary V mindset of like hustle till you die and sleep when you've won and grind and all of that. And then kind of needed to know that I was capable of that to then learn the next level, which is like yesterday, I've been traveling a lot over the last few weeks. And yesterday I slept until like 9:45 in the morning. Yeah. And I was like, wow, damn, guess I needed that. Whereas previous versions of me would be like judgmental, you slacker, very critical, like you're wasting time, you're falling behind, etc. It sounds like that's what you're describing there, that navigation of all of those things.
It's like the next level of like alignment too. But I love that you said it's almost like you do need that, because I had that first season, which was like, okay, I can handle this. Like I'm built for, it's almost like for anyone that's new in the entrepreneurial space, you kind of need that season to like prove that you're gritty and resilient and resourceful and even like to some degree scrappy. But now I've had this conversation with myself where I'm like, okay, what I did to get me to that level, I'm so proud of myself for, but there's no way in hell that's getting me to the next level, because now it's more about alignment, to your point of asking myself like better questions for this season. But if I wouldn't have had that first like grinded out season, I wouldn't have felt so sure internally that this is the right path for me. So it's like knowing what season you're in too is huge. So I love that you brought that up. That's so good.
Yeah, I feel like you're similar in the sense of like, if I was like, hey, Kacia, like we need to knock out a couple 10-hour days, or we need to post on Instagram every day for a month, or we need to, do this thing. It's like, yeah, I got it. Like, I know it's in me. Like it's in my bones. I have that to draw upon. Right. And because that foundation's there, it's also perhaps the next step in the process is like, hey, Kacia, like we're not working for a week, or like we're just going to take a lot of naps. It's like that is an additional skill set required in this space, right?
Yeah, that is such an important thing to remind yourself as anyone that's an entrepreneur of knowing that too is a massive win of slowing down. Like I just think it's hard to in our culture, right? Where it's like busy is worn like a badge of honor, right? And everybody's celebrating all these accomplishments and we want the next like shiny, flashy thing. And like, what can I clap for myself for? Actually, more importantly, what will other people clap for me for? And that's where people struggle because the slowdown is perceived as lazy and that's not going to get you there. But it's like the slowdown is what's going to take you to the next level. But I love what you said because you have the skill set, you have the reminder in your head because of the season that you were in where you're like, I know I've got it in me. It's like, if something goes wrong, I will stay up all night and I will fix that thing. Cause I'm like, I have that in me, but I don't want to do that anymore because I know it won't take me there. Right. So that's good.
It's frustrating. It's like, I know I could get to fifth gear for a whole day, but I know I also have driven the car long enough to recognize that I need an oil change now and again. I need a little pit stop, change the tires. It's like, might destroy the vehicle in the process.
That's so good. That's so good.
So, okay, getting back to what we originally proposed talking about after we've done 20 minutes. So I'm intrigued by what you said at the beginning, which was about something like savoring the process rather than what you're producing. And so I think it aligns with what we're just saying there. But talk to me a little bit, please, about like what do you see in people often when we coach, when we observe in your own life? Like, how do we fall in love with the process?
Yeah, I think because we don't look at the foundational element of doing anything as confidence building, we miss a big opportunity for pride and fulfillment. So let me explain it this way, actually. So in pursuit of the goal, we think it's about accomplishing the goal, right? And we think it's like, once I get there, I'm going to feel proud. I'm going to feel fulfilled. I'm going to did the thing. Everyone's going to clap. I'm going to clap for myself. Yay, go me. But in reality, it's like part of the reason that we set goals, I think, is because it's a really big opportunity to build confidence along the way. And especially in the entrepreneurial space and anything really that you're working on, where I like to think of, this is really corny, but it helps me so much. I like to think of confidence as the foundation, and confidence is a bucket. Where essentially every single day that you show up and you do that tiny little thing to move the needle forward, to keep a promise to yourself, to do the thing that you said that you're going to do, after the feeling you said it and is gone, you're putting a little deposit into your bucket. So it's like plop, 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 like filling up your bucket, right? So like the joy part is actually like, I just want to fill my bucket because what happens in life, as we all know, you get dealt curveballs or you have someone that doesn't understand you or you have someone that makes some comment about it, whether it's a family member or it's someone on social media or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And because we're humans and we're designed to want to belong and to want to be part of community, it does hurt your feelings, even if you say it doesn't. Like this whole idea of like, screw the naysayers and screw what everybody else thinks, like blinders on, just do you. I'm like, I get it, but it's not very human of us, right? Like, it's like we do naturally care a little bit what people think. And I don't think that's a problem if you're willing to focus on caring what you think most, and that the root of everything is building up this confidence and this belief in yourself and pursuit of the goals. And that's actually really fun because someone makes a comment and it feels like, for sake of this analogy, somebody like smacks the side of your confidence bucket and like some like plops out of your bucket. You're like, oh, like it sucks. It hurts. It's annoying. But because the process of focusing on building confidence and celebrating little things along the way was actually the real underlying goal, you can still keep going, right? Because you don't feel like you're completely depleted and like you're running on fumes now, because it's like you still have something because you focused on that like tiny little day by day stacking the wins type of mentality. And I think a lot of times if we just wait until some, arbitrary end goal, once we accomplish that, what I think is really a hard thing that a lot of people struggle with is you get there and you look back at the path that you took towards getting there and you're like, that wasn't worth it. So then you give up then and you don't go to that next level, whatever that looks like for you. Or you have the option of looking back at the path that you took towards getting there and you're like, damn, look how far I've come. I'm so proud of myself. I actually had a lot of fun in the process. Now what can I do next? Because we're always going to be moving the stake. So it doesn't feel like we're constantly in this state of like strive, get to the next thing. What's the next shiny thing? But instead it's like, I want the moment that when I get where I want to go, I'm proud that I got there, but I also look back at that path and I'm like, that was fulfilling, that I want to keep going. So it's more this like thinking from a macro level of how will this contribute if you actually do focus on the process rather than just saying, I'm looking to get there so that I can feel like I did that thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then how in that process do you distinguish between the feelings of difficulty, fear, etc., as being a yes or being a no?
Yeah, that's good. So I like to think about like where do I want to be in say 2 years, right? Like if I could be doing anything in 2 years, what am I doing? What does it actually feel like to be doing those things? And is what I'm doing now, can I paint some sort of path towards getting there with what I'm doing now? Right. So I can kind of like reverse engineer. Because when I can, even if the path changes, it's just letting my mind think about like, okay, if I want to be doing events and I want to have this and I want to do these things and I want it to feel like this in my day-to-day life, am I doing things now that are contributing that I can kind of connect those dots looking forward to just like a year or two from now? Because when the fear comes up, then I can recognize, is it fear just because I'm elevating to that next level? And I'm like, ooh, this is just like a normal fear. Like, I don't know how to do this yet. I don't want to be new at something because it sucks being new at something. I used to be so good at doing that. It would be easier for me to stay in this place that I already know. I can identify if it's that fear, but then if it's misalignment, it's like, I can't even like, I'm like, okay, wait, this actually isn't going to get me there. Do I still want to go there? Or do I now want to figure out what a new there is? And then I can ask myself, like, is this resistance because I'm not actually clear on where I want to go? And it's like having that macro vision of where you want to go. And then that micro focus of like, what do I need to do today to like win this day so I can build confidence with that macro vision of I'm working towards this, knowing that the path might change, but I'm still making steps in the right direction because I want that progress and I want to feel that like I'm moving towards something. So it's like, if it feels unaligned or I'm feeling resistance, the question that I'm asking myself is, do I need to change the path? Or am I just experiencing like fear that's very normal from doing something that I've never done before because I'm fearful of being new at it, right?
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing is zooming out, reminding yourself of like the path that you're on. And then perhaps another component of that would be to potentially take smaller steps if you're feeling overwhelmed with fear or decisions or deadlines. It's like maybe just break that in half and try that.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Or even like what can you do in the next, like whenever people tell me like, okay, I have this idea of this thing I want to do. I'm like, awesome. What can you do in the next 24 hours to move the needle forward? Right? Like take even like a marathon. Majority of people can't run a marathon tomorrow. I mean, some people definitely can, but majority of people can't. But you can definitely sign up for the marathon tomorrow. You can find a marathon that you can sign up for. You can pick a date that you're going to do it. Right. So that's something that you can do to give yourself that little like confidence boost and that little hit of like moving in the right direction. And you can do it in the next 24 hours. And it's almost like we need that little like boost to get that momentum so we can start going down the path and start mapping it out versus if we sit in this analysis paralysis wanting to have this perfectly crafted path or every single step, the steps might change based off of as you're, kind of evolving, getting closer to that goal. Curveballs might be dealt into your life, or you might just decide that it's not the thing that you want. So I think it's like asking yourself that constantly of like, okay, it sounds so micro of like, what's the next best step? But it really is because you do need that confidence hit so that you can just kind of keep going a little bit by little bit, because otherwise you're going to feel like you're really far away from where you want to go versus if you feel like you're kind of taking it little steps along the way.
Yeah. One thing that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on is this idea of identity. So when you talk about running a marathon, for example, part of the process of training and signing up and buying running shoes and committing is that you become a runner.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're a runner and you run 6 days a week, then a marathon is a kind of expected byproduct of that lifestyle and of those choices. Right. And so when you work with people or as a podcaster, right? So when you're working with new podcasters and they deal with imposter syndrome or a complete beginner's mindset confrontation.
Yep.
What does anything come up for you?
Yeah. I mean, that it's 100% what we talk about, even with new podcasters or anyone. It's really actually adopting the identity first, which is different than acting as if or pretending, because that takes a whole lot of energy, right? Like, it's hard enough to be a human. Let's not be the people that go through life trying to pretend that we're someone else, because that's a lot of energy that you don't need to be doing. And it's not going to feel very fulfilled for you to go through life that way. But there's a difference between asking yourself, okay, where is it that I want to go? What would it like? So right now I'm working on what got me here to this point in my business. For me was a lot of trying things out, kind of rolling with the punches, launching things, seeing what didn't work, tweaking in real time. It got me to this point. But what's going to get me to that next level, like I mentioned, is like kind of realigning. And I've had to really ask myself, like, how can I adopt more of the mentality of being a CEO of a company rather than just kind of like throwing things against the wall and running at this crazy speed? And when I asked myself that question, I'm like, okay, a CEO, if I was a CEO of a company, how would I think about this? What habits would I have? What type of boundaries would I put in place? Like, how can I actually become that person who acts in that way from however I define that person acts, right? Because everyone could say CEO in a different way. But for me, I'm like, what habits do I have and how do I actually show up today? And what questions do I ask myself? Because if you ask yourself crappy questions, obviously you're going to get crappy answers. So I'm asking myself really good questions. Like, how can I embody this today? Like, how would I approach this situation? If I'm thinking more from a macro level of how this contributes to the company, how would I proceed with this? Same rules apply with running a marathon, with starting a podcast. How would a podcaster handle creating content? How would a podcaster show up to an interview? How would a podcaster schedule out content if they're going to be going on vacation? Would they be, when one of the goals of being a podcaster and identifying that that's part of your identity is like, I love being a podcaster, you then have to think through that lens of like, okay, well, I know I need to be consistent if I want to cultivate community around my podcast. That's one of the reasons that my podcast has a good community around it, is because I'm so consistent so people can rely on me, right? So that part comes with those questions, right? As a runner, how would a runner be thinking about a 3-mile run? Well, you're not going to be like, oh, I have a side ache. Like, why does this hurt so much? Like, why are my knees so sore? Like, why do I suck? You're going to be thinking, okay, I'm running. Woo, I'm breathing. Woo, I got my awesome shoes on. I got my headband. Like, I've adopted the identity. Like, you just think differently about it. And we don't slow down sometimes to say like, okay, this is the goal. Now, how can a version of me accomplish that goal? And what would that actually look like? But more importantly, what would that feel like? What habits would I have to have? Like, it's really simple, but it's not common practice. Like, it's very simple to explain it. But if you go into every goal with that like mentality of how can I adopt the identity of the person who's doing the thing that I want to be doing, it's not that acting or pretending. It's literally just starting to retrain your brain of how you think about yourself and the way that you view your day-to-day tasks even, right?
I think I love that. And I think another perspective on that is that by exploring the identity that you need to create, it also will illuminate areas in your personality, in your habits, in your rituals that are pretty glaring or that you hadn't necessarily noticed before.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, if I want to be a badass podcaster with 1 million downloads a month, I'm going to have to be pretty confident, right? And it's like, and the idea of that terrifies me. And I'm realizing that I bite my tongue sometimes, or that I'm scared of what people will say, etc.
Yeah. And it to that too, it can illuminate that that's maybe not what you want to do, right? There's a difference if you want to develop those skills, right? But for me, for example, one of the ideas that we threw out was this, because I've helped hundreds of women launch podcasts. We were talking about launching a podcast network. And I was thinking about doing that. And it made sense on paper. I've got a huge community of podcasters. I could help them with sponsorships. I could do all this stuff, but I played it out. And I was like, what will my life and what do I spend my time doing? What will I actually have to do? Like, if I adopt that identity of I have this, podcast network that I'm running, do I want to do those tasks? Do I want to ask those questions? Do I want to think those thoughts? And it's illuminating, oh shit, I don't want to do that. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Right. And for me, I was like, wait a second. I absolutely can develop those skills. But when I think about playing out what it's going to feel like on a day-to-day basis, to have that be a huge portion of where I spend my time, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the tech, even though I can help you out, tech squad. But like, I don't want to get those questions, right? I don't want to answer those questions on a daily basis around all of that. So that helped me then also understand that's a path that I don't want to continue down. So let me redirect here, because it's illuminating where the areas that I need to improve on. And I'm like, I know that those are weaknesses of mine. And there's a difference between knowing your weaknesses and working on them, and then knowing your weaknesses you're going to have to grow a ton in. And that doesn't feel like that's going to be fulfilling for me. Bye. I'll go do something else. Right.
Yeah. It might just not be the right time for those certain parts of you. Right.
Yeah.
It's like the low hanging fruit idea. Like I can work on that one, but that over like the childhood trauma, like it's a pass right now. Like this other one, gotta work up to it. I like that phrase, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
That was good. And it reminds me of maybe a year ago now, I threw like a little temper tantrum at my girlfriend. And I realized that I had just come to the end of my rope with one-on-one coaching. I was like, I don't want to work with one-on-one clients anymore. And I'm tired of hearing about people's problems. And I don't want to have any more Zoom calls and like, wah, 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 wah. And it was like, okay, man, what are we going to do about this? Because it's like you can't show up to work with somebody one-on-one if that's genuinely how you feel. It's like not the highest excitement, et cetera. And so what I did was I like stopped. I just took a break for like 10 months. I only just last month started working with clients again, one-on-one. And it's completely different. I feel energized and I'm excited and it feels fun and blah, blah, blah. And so I guess I'm sharing that to highlight that it doesn't necessarily have to be a forever decision.
Yep.
Right. And I remember talking to my own coach and she's like, you can stop your podcast for like a month, right? Like you don't have to just quit and abandon it. Or you don't have to go every week all in. Like you can decide there's gray areas. There's other choices available.
Mm-hmm. And that you're going to change your mind. Like, I think the absolute of anything is really difficult for me personally to think like I'm going to do something for forever. That feels like I don't know how I'm going to be in 3 years. What if I don't want to be doing that in 3 years? But what's helped me a lot is to think about even contributing to a bigger vision of the direction that I want to go. I'm like, is me doing this now giving me more options later? Because options feel really fun. Where I'm like, ooh, if I like show up and keep doing this right now, then maybe I could try this on, or maybe I could do this, or I could do X, Y, Z. And like that creates this like openness where I get really excited about doing some of the unsexy things to build up, for example, in the online space, to build up the community. And I'm like, ooh, I could try that with them later if I continue to be consistent with cultivating this. And that's a beautiful gift to give to your future self, right? Is like options. And knowing, even with the perspective of what you just said, of knowing, maybe you don't want to do one-on-one coaching right now, but you might change your mind later. I don't want to do a podcast network right now. Will I change my mind in a year? Probably not. 2 years? I don't know. 5? I have no idea. Right? Like truly, which is cool.
Can I take this in a slightly different direction? May I ask you a personal question?
Absolutely.
You gave me approval before we recorded it, but I just wanted to be on the record that like I have permission. So when you talked about the idea of forever from a business perspective, that's one thing. But then I noticed you've got a big rock on your finger.
I do.
So how did you navigate that when it came to getting married?
Yeah. So it's so interesting because are you familiar with the Enneagram at all?
I am minimally, but
you should definitely look into it more. It's so juicy. I'm obsessed with it. I'm an Enneagram 7, which if anyone listening doesn't know what the Enneagram is, you got to Google it. It talks about like your core motivators. It's like such an eye-opening personality test that I'm obsessed with. Anyway, so I've thought a lot about this because I'm in a 13-year relationship. And for whatever reason, I haven't struggled with the forever idea in the relationship. And I think it's because I am with someone who's on the same like mindset of like, we're going to constantly grow and evolve and we're just going to do it like side by side. And that was shown to me pretty early on in our relationship that I was like, I'm going to go do all these things and I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to start this business and I'm going to go do all of this. Like, if you're not on board, then I like pretty early on, I was like, if you're not on board with the fact that I don't even know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years and I'm all over the place, if you don't get it, then like, I totally understand. This would be your chance to walk away now because like, I'm going to be like this. And I kind of like knew that I was on this like path, and he was so on board with that. And now I've started to, what's worked really well is because I am so open, it's, and against this like optionality and this whole like forever concept. I have that side to me where the way that our relationship works really well is he describes it like I'm like a bowling ball on like a lacquered plane and I'm kind of all over the place. And he's just kind of like the bumpers, and he loves being in that role where he's like, I'm never going to tell you like what to do, or I'm never going to say you have to go this way, but like, we're just kind of going to go through like this. Like, he's more like the cones kind of, right? So when I felt free while still feeling committed, and now that like it worked for me in my relationship, which is kind of how I think about business, where I'm like, okay, I'm committed to being an entrepreneur. Like, at this point, I don't feel like I'm hireable, which I'm totally down with. So like, this is forever for me. What will it look like? I don't know exactly, but I'm committed to the forever idea of being in this space and letting it evolve. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I've thought about that a lot. And a lot of people have asked me that. Like, you're in a 13-year relationship and you're like the squirreliest person ever. I'm like, I know, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like the relationship dynamic includes the possibility of options, and that you feel free in the relationship rather than constrained by it.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
And to your point about being unhireable, I completely relate. I remember like working at Costco, for example, when I was a student, and having to clock in and out for lunch, like 30 minutes. And I remember the supervisor standing there with a clipboard and noting the times. And if you were 4 minutes late, you had a 3-minute window. But if you were 4 minutes late, you get in trouble. And like, the idea of that now, my whole body is just like, is like, fuck you. Like, impossible.
Yeah. I remember,
go.
No, I just feel like I remember the times of sitting at my desk where I was done with the things that I needed to do, but we couldn't leave until 5, and being like, this is literally crazy to me. I was like, this, like, you know, what? And I think a lot of corporations, and especially with work from home, it's a little bit different now. But I remember sitting at my desk just thinking, I'm not built for this. Like, there's no way. This just doesn't even make logical sense to me. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I feel like most of us are not built for that system, right? Like things that don't make sense to us, or things that we think are illogical or just frankly stupid. Like, if you're done with your work for the day, like, why can't you go home? That's reasonable, right? And I feel like more and more businesses and corporations are starting to recognize that, and are like working remotely for the pandemic, I think, is an example of that, offering more freedom, more benefits, more options. It's happening.
Yeah. Which is cool to think of how much power is going to be in people that are, you know, in job search. Like, it's like companies have to bend and kind of flex with that, because there are going to be some that do, which is changing the whole landscape. And I love that, because not everybody, it's so interesting, because a lot of times when people are entrepreneurs, they think like everybody should want to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, how would the world work if everybody was an entrepreneur? And not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Like, you know, so I love that.
I've certainly had my moments where I've just sat on the couch and just feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and would happily trade all of it for a 2-week paycheck. Like, the security of knowing what's coming in every 2 weeks, right?
Or have you ever had an idea of like moving to a deserted island and just saying, screw all of this, and like on a tiki hut?
I literally, I did it.
Yeah.
I took a job in American Samoa in the South Pacific, and I lived there for 2 years, and I moved to a place that I affectionately refer to as the Shack, which had no hot water, no television, no internet access, and was 20 feet from the ocean.
Yeah.
And I literally moved to a boat in Thailand for a couple months. Like, I tried my best to run away. And I think after years of doing that to great success and the best of my ability, I recognized that I was actually trying to run away from myself, which was a very sobering reflection of sorts. Like, damn, I moved to one of the most remote places in the world And still, this thing lingers inside. I should probably pay some attention to that.
Yeah. It's so interesting what you realize about yourself in those situations. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I love that you did that.
I mean, yeah, it's worked out. I'm like, it's brought us here to this moment, and I like my life. And yeah, looking back, I definitely would have made some different decisions. But nonetheless, another question.
Yeah.
You say on your website that real success is from the person you're becoming.
Yeah.
So not like the number in my bank account or the number on the scale or how many followers I have. I'm calling bullshit. I've been sold this package deal by society.
It's so funny, right?
What do you mean?
I just think it's so interesting how we kind of forget that we're we hear this, but we forget that we are the only person that we're actually going to spend every single second of every single day with for the rest of our life, guaranteed, 100%. And it's like, I just care so much about enjoying my Tuesdays more than I do about anything. Like, I just right here. And to be honest with you, I've actually had a lot of death. Like, I had two close friends of mine die from different situations year to year at age 30. And I'm like, it just doesn't, like, we hear like you don't know how many days you have, but like you really don't know how many days you have. One of my friends died from a freak accident. And I'm like, he would have never expected that would have happened. And so it's like, how could I live more like I actually really savor the actual day? Right. And I actually really say, like, I like the person that I am now better than the person that I was yesterday, even when I'm cranky, or even if I'm like, don't know where I'm going, or I feel confused or lost. I'm like, my actual goal is to focus on the present and being present where my feet are and saying, like, do I like this person? Do I like the environment that I'm creating for her to live in, which is my head? The only thing that I'm guaranteed is the thoughts that I think. That's the only thing I can control. So it's like, what if you just started to focus on celebrating of for example, when I brush my teeth every day in the morning, I think about what I'm excited about for the day ahead. I'm priming my brain to get excited because I like the feeling of being excited about life on a day-to-day basis. And then at the end of the day, when I'm brushing my teeth before bed, I'm thinking about what I'm proud of myself for. And it can't be I did this thing. It's I acted this way in this situation. I thought this thought when I would have thought another thought. I handled this better than I would have XYZ, right? It's like comparing yourself to a prior version of you where you're like, dang, you're brushing your teeth. You're like, I'm doing a pretty good job being a human here. Mm-hmm. And we look at that as trivial, but I think that's everything. Mm-hmm. Right?
100%. I love that.
Yeah.
I love do you have any other practical secrets that you use day to day? What are, for me, one example is I have in my phone's in the other room.
Yeah.
I have 3 alarms that go off each day that I've preset, and they go off and they say a mantra or an action. So at 5:55, it says feel 5 heartbeats, and I take my pulse on my wrist.
Love that.
And I feel 5 heartbeats, and I do that to remind myself that I am a living, breathing miracle, and that there's this muscle in my chest pumping liquid through my microscopic tunnels. And it's because I like feeling awe. I like feeling astounded, right? And so for me, it's a daily practice. Alarm goes off, I feel my pulse, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah.
Right? How about for you? You have any?
Along those lines, I like to label my alarm in the morning of something that I'm excited. Sometimes I'll set it before I go to bed of you're such a badass. Look at you living your best life. Go girl. It's a message to myself, which sounds really dorky, but it's fun that's the thing that I'm going to see when I get up in the morning. And then I can see that, turn off my alarm, flip my phone over, and then I can go do my teeth brushing thing.
It's funny because I did that for when I was finishing my PhD thesis. At the end of the day in the Word document, I would write some goofy shit you're such a handsome devil. And then the next day, I would go to the document and start writing again. And it would be you're such a, and I would forget every time, but it's that's fun.
It's those tiny little things that are so easy to do. And they're also so easy not to do. But if you find a couple of those things throughout your day, it's everything. I love, I have a Spotify playlist that I created when COVID started. It was called Quarantine Surprise Jams. And there's thousands of people following this playlist now. And I would just add random songs that people would request. It's this is the song that makes me shake my butt really hard when I'm having in a funk and I need to just shake it. And I would just add the song. The playlist has like Aaron Carter to like AC/DC to like random bands I've never heard of. Like it's just this massive playlist. I'm like, turn that on in the middle of the day. Like get outside, move your body, change your entire life. And again, it's so freaking simple, which is why people say like, oh, getting good sleep and drinking water and eating, like you actually care about yourself. Those things like, oh, they're so simple. Yeah, but do it and watch your whole damn life change. Right?
Yes.
Like,
yes. It's like, it seems too simple. It sounds too good to be true. And I think that is a unifying theme through all of these episodes that I've recorded and all the books I've read, etc. It's like life isn't fundamentally that complex when you zoom out. It's like get some sleep, eat better food, get in nature, build some good relationships.
Yep.
Like take care of yourself. Be careful of what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah. But it's like we want this like secret sauce to get there faster because we live in an Amazon Prime instant gratification culture. It's like, I want a Sharpie and I want it in an hour. I don't want to wait till tomorrow. I don't want to go to the store. Like I want it delivered to me. And we want that with our goals. We want that with every solution to everything. We want that with our businesses, our careers. It's hard because you do have to work against the culture that's constantly trying to give us all this stimulus to think that we need it better, faster, quicker, all that. So you're having to create these spaces. Like what's so interesting is it's a tiny little space that you create with your alarm going off and just taking like 5 seconds literally to breathe and be like, oh, heartbeat, right? Or it's like the dorky little things like brushing your teeth for the full sonic care rotation. Don't like hit the little beeper thing and stop it early, like the full rotation and like think about what you're excited for. I think we forget that those little things really do add up.
Yeah. I love that. I think this is a good place to stop. Like, always leave them wanting more. Kacia Fitzgerald. So, where can they get more of you? I know you got the podcast. What is it called? Empower Her.
Yeah, it's called Empower Her podcast. It's Monday, Thursday episodes, and I do pep talks on Mondays, which are like someone that's just telling you what's up and like trying to remind you to do the damn thing, light a little fire under your butt. And then Thursdays are typically either a little bit longer, like 20-minute episodes or interviews. And I'm on social media at Kacia, Kacia.Fitzgerald. Instagram's my favorite. And then, come check out all the things. And I have a company called She Goes, which we're doing lots of cool things. A lot of cool things launching there too pretty soon here because of this season where I slowed down for a second to get alignment. Now we can scale it off into cyberspace.
Yeah. That's a whole other podcast perhaps of like, oh, I can't slow down because I need to figure this thing out. It's like, well, if you slow down, you'll figure it out. Like,
exactly.
Chill.
So true. I love it.
I had fun. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I feel like we'd be pals if you lived nearby. Where do you live?
I live in Austin.
Oh, yeah. Everybody lives in Austin now.
Where do you live?
I live in Squamish, up near Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, okay. I'm from Washington State originally, the greater Seattle area.
Oh, yes. The Pacific Northwest.
Moving to Denver in like 6 months.
Oh, I was there a week ago.
Yeah. Cool.
Why are you moving to Denver?
I want mountains and season changes.
That's fair.
Yeah. So
Denver has those.
Yep. See, I like the random like snow that then melts and some sunshine, but also mountains and crispy cold mornings. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure to get to know you, and thanks for all you are and all you do. This was really helpful, and I think a lot of people will get value from it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. So nice to meet you and connect with you.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah.
All right. That was Kacia Fitzgerald. As mentioned in the show notes, I've included links to her podcast, to her Instagram, to her websites, so you can get more into her work, her knowledge, her wisdom, her ecosystem, etc. And thank you for being here. If you know anybody that would benefit from listening to this conversation, please do share it. Please do send it to them and say, hey, get this in your ear bones. This will help you. That is the entire reason that I do this work. It's the reason I have the podcast. So anything that you can do to share, to spread the word is very meaningful to me. One of the easiest ways to do that does matter is to leave a 5-star review, or even better, a little comment in the Apple Podcast or Spotify area. Let people know you like the podcast. Helps me to get guests, helps spread the word, feeds the algorithm, all those things. I so appreciate you being here. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you next week.